So speaking of the most vulnerable among us, old folks' homes, where we New York State demanded that they put infected people in, let's talk about the most vicious among us, convicts, because Democrats have been demanding that they get let out. So that's been happening now. Well, many thousands of prisoners have been let out because of the COVID. Here's a video that came out of Los Angeles inmates, by the way.
What could go wrong?
I just thought this was hysterical. It's disturbing, but it's also very important. These cons are deliberately trying to contract COVID-19 now in the prisons.
Prisons across the country are trying to prevent the virus from spreading, but the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department says some inmates are deliberately attempting to infect themselves with COVID-19. Sheriffs provided this surveillance video recorded on April 26th. It says it shows prisoners sharing bottles and masks trying to contract the virus.
Sad to think that someone deliberately tried to expose himself to COVID-19. As a result of this behavior,
that kind of
from this particular
module,
21 inmates tested positive for COVID-19 within a week of
the interpreters are awesome insiders.
The interpreters
During 1 week, there
top-notch.
was a 60% jump in the number of confirmed cases, and the Sheriff's Department also reports some inmates thought they'd be released if they tested positive. Right now, more than 5,000 inmates are under quarantine. That's about 40% of the population in jail.
Surprise! Now you're just stuck there and you still have a cough. Although actually should be noted, a lot of them were set free. Also, they did try and contract coronavirus through other methods that we can't show on the program, obviously. These Los Angeles inmates have a lot of growing up to do. I'll tell you that. That's all I can say. So, not a lot of respect. Tens of thousands of inmates have been released. And then you've had multiple prisoners who've committed murder since they've been released.
Murder. They didn't get like a speeding ticket or a parking ticket.
So we've put sick people into old folks' homes, and we're letting prisoners out. Which, who could have possibly imagined that prisoners who fashion shanks from Bic pens, by the way, would be willing to take a slight cough or a 90% chance that they are asymptomatic if they see the possibility of being on furlough.
This has got to be the stupidest.
The good news is, by the way, all those violent, hardened criminals and registered sex offenders have been replaced with barbers. So,
well, that's good. At least we
our prisons aren't empty.
Fight the real enemy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You have to keep it going. You got to keep it.
No haircuts, and I'm getting stabbed.
Yeah.
It's great.
Because
I'm gonna look like this in my coffin. Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
that'd be great.
Nice. Oh my God, the teardrop tattoo.
Oh my gosh. I mean, really, that's just got to be the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I understand.
Only from California.
It's not. Well, unfortunately, it's not only California that's doing it. There are other places that are doing it. But how do you make any sense of that at all? Like a guy like Michael Avenatti, who's just the scum of the earth, but he's not a murderer. Letting him out or somebody like that for doing that, fine, right? You want to release somebody like that, fine. A murderer?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You played the hand. You lost. You're here, COVID or not, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna get it and die.
I don't know. By the way, I don't know if they let murderers out so much as they let people out who then went and murdered.
Well, they are letting some folks who are like they're loosening the parole and or like the bail system is a little bit easier.
Yeah,
so, like,
and robberies are up, by the way. Yeah, let's send them into society stronger than when they came in and give everybody masks so you can't ID them.
Why are you loosening parole? Like, you should be tightening. Yes, you can go out, but you can only stay in your house. You
unless
don't leave. Everybody else has to stay
you're
inside.
82, by the way. Then there's no chance in hell.
Loosening how many people are released early so they can go on parole.
They're already quarantined in the
prison.
But
do you know the one place in the United States that can have a 100% effective quarantine?
Yeah.
Prisons.
I know.
The one place that you can effectively keep everybody safe is like, just stay in yourselves, guys. We have you locked in.
That actually doesn't make any sense.
It does make sense.
No, it doesn't
what are you
make any
talking
sense.
about?
Because they can't quarantine. Everything that they do there is involved with.
He means group quarantine. Like, you
can keep everybody in their cell, and the guards can bring them food and slide it in.
They have solitary.
Because, by the way, there are a lot of people who have cases in prison, but they're asymptomatic. Because most of them are younger people. They're healthy. We don't have an epidemic of deaths in prison. So, consider them a clinical study.
Hey, that's good.
I think they signed up for it when they signed their papers to go in.
Let me present this, and I know I'll sound a little conspiratorial here. Why is it, when you think of this from a logical perspective, how can you justify a policy where you force old folks' homes to take old people and quarantine them, and they are not allowed to leave, but you let out convicts because they might be at greater risk? So it's obviously not only about being at greater risk. Could it maybe be that old people, not exactly the demographic there?
They don't think they're going to vote.
And I'm not saying it's a conscious effort.
That sounds like a conspiracy theory.
It does sound like a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's a conscious effort, but if you look at the pandering that occurs, for example, they're giving money to illegal immigrants starting today in California while they're running out of money at the VA hospital, right? They forced quarantine for old people and forced old folks' homes to take them in while they're letting out prisoners, like you see that in New York and California. I just think it's because they look at victim status and they don't consider the actual victims. In this case, the actual victims are veterans, people who've served their country versus people who have no business being here in the first place. In this case, the actual victims are old people who didn't have a choice and were forced to go through a veritable buzzsaw, which was everybody else infecting everybody in that old folks' home, where we actually just see victims through hardened, violent criminals. It is remarkable to me, and it's because in constantly looking for the latest victim class and status, you inevitably end up ignoring and shortchanging those who are most likely to be victimized.